Lippy, would you share the screen or would you want me to share the screen?
I can, but I haven't opened the PDF. I'll need some time opening it. 1 minute.
I can open it. I have it opened.
Acha, you have it opened?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should start. Lippy, would you like to start with the prayers?
Okay. Oh, just a second one. एक किताब गिर गया मेरा. Sorry. वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा. नागेन्द्रहाराय त्रिलोचनाय भस्माङ्गरागाय महेश्वराय नित्याय शुद्धाय दिगम्बराय तस्मै नकाराय नमः शिवाय. मंदाकिनी सलील चंदन चर्चिताय नंदीश्वर प्रमथनाथ महेश्वराय मंदार पुष्प बहु पुष्प सुपूजिताय तस्मै मकाराय नमः शिवाय. शिवाय गौरी वदनाब्ज वृंद सूर्याय दक्षाध्वरनाशकाय श्रीनीलकण्ठाय वृषध्वजाय तस्मै शिकाराय नमः शिवाय. वसिष्ठकुम्भोद्भव गौतमार्य मुनीन्द्रदेवार्चितशेखराय चन्द्रार्कवैश्वनरलोचनाय तस्मै वकाराय नमः शिवाय. यक्षस्वरूपाय जटाधराय पीनाकहस्ताय सनातनाय दिव्याय देवाय दिगम्बराय तस्मै यकाराय नमः शिवाय. हर हर महादेव.
Mahadev?
I don't remember the Lord Vishnu's prayer. Just a minute, I'll open my file and one moment, please.
Ivarnam Sadurpujamma.
But I don't remember it, so I'll just yeah. Shuklam Baradharam Vishnum Sashivaranam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vigna Upasante. That's it.
I think let's start.
Yeah.
I can start today. I can read a chapter
Yeah.
or two and then someone else can take it forward.
Okay.
Tirujan Om Namah Shivaya. Tirujanana Sambandhi Gurus. Saturasasana Pandya was ruling the kingdom of Pandya. A brave man, he conquered the king of Cholas and Chera and incorporated their kingdoms into his. When he died, his son Kubja Pandya succeeded into the throne. Kubja married the daughter of Chola king. Her name was Vaniteshwari. Kubja returned the Chola kingdom to his father-in-law by giving several rich gifts to Kubja. The Chera king also regained his kingdom from Kubja. At the time of sending Vaniteshwari to her husband's home, the Chola king offered Kubja the service of their minister Kulabandhana, who accompanied her. Leaving the care of the kingdom in the capable hands of Kulabandhana, Kubja was spending his time happily in the company of his wife. Everyone was happy with the able minister of Kulabandhana who saw to it that the kingdom knew no want or poverty. Thus several years passed by. In the meantime, many Buddhists entered that kingdom. They converted Kubja to their faith, insulting Hinduism. He even went to the extent of inviting and patronizing Buddhists from all corners of the world. He stopped the customary consecration to the presiding deities of his kingdom, goddess Meenakshi and Lord Sundareshwara. He had forbidden the smearing of the holy ashes and the wearing of the Shiva rosary by his people. The people were terrified and were even hesitating to go to the temple of Meenakshi and Sundaresa for fear of being molested by the king's men. Kubja paid no heed to the wise counsel of his queen and his minister. He was wholly infatuated with Buddhism. He ordered his queen and his minister also not to worship Shiva in any form. When they threatened that they would commit suicide if forbidden the visit of the Shiva temple, he allowed it to them, but still forbade them the use of the sacred ashes and the Shiva rosary. Once there was drought in the Pandya kingdom. As the queen and the minister were talking about the best way of bringing the king around to his original love, Hinduism, a great Sevati and Sivananda arrived there and were duly honored by the queen and the minister. Sivananda narrated the following story. There is a place called Brahmapuram in the Chola country. There lives a great devotee of Shiva named Shiva Yogi. By the grace of Lord Shiva, he had a son. When the boy was 5 years old, he was one day taken along by his father to the nearby river. Asking the boy to wait on the bank, Shiva Yogi went to bathe in the river. Shiva and Parvati, who were flying above in the sky, happened to see the boy. As Parvati was impressed by the boy's good looks, she ordered that the airplane touch down the earth near where the boy was seated. Parvati caressed and suckled the child. Before saying, "Child, you will learn in no time the Vedas and the Shastras. You will be known as Janana Sambandhi Guru and will disseminate the knowledge about Lord
ಜ್ಞಾನ ಸಂಬಂಧಿ ಜ್ಞಾನ
Jnana
ಸಂಬಂಧಿ
Sambandhi.
ಹಾ
Jnana, okay, J is silent. Jnana Sambandhi Guru and will disseminate the knowledge about Lord Shiva on all sides. I am now presenting you with a golden throne, a pearl studded white canopy, a golden staff, a pair of precious fans, and a palanquin pot, a tumbler made of fine gold. Accept these and go around the world, equipped with them. So saying, she disappeared right away. When he returned from his bath, Shiv Yogi was surprised to see his little son seated on a pearl-studded throne and surrounded by rich belongings. Learning the news from the child, Shiv Yogi thanked the Lord and his consort mentally. The boy started the Vedic studies in the right earnest, and before long went about the country refuting the Buddhist teaching with his own well-reasoned arguments in favor of Buddhism. Unable to withstand his word power, the Buddhist priests fled the Chola country. The news of their flight and of the victorious efforts of Jnanasambandhi Guru reached the Pandya country. The queen and the minister were delighted and sent an invitation to the Guru to visit the Pandya kingdom. Accepting the invitation and with pleasure, the Guru arrived in Madura. Accompanied by some 16,000 disciples, the visitor took a dip in the Vegavati river, prayed to Meenakshi and Sundaresa, besides worshipping Lord Ganpati in the first place. Meanwhile, Maniteshwari and Kulbandhana came there and praying to Guru with the golden flowers, explained to him the current situation of their kingdom. Because of the king's Buddhist learnings, she requested him to reform her husband. The Guru promised to do his best. One of the saints of Madura, named Vagisa Shivayogi, invited the Guru to his monastery. The Guru and his disciples were provided with all their requirements by the queen during their stay in the monastery. Kshapanat Desika, learning about the Guru's visit and its purpose, performed a voodoo rite, Abhichara Homa, aimed at killing the Guru and his retinue. The fire that was produced by that ritual calming down before reaching the Vagisa Mutt. So the Desika repeated his rite with greater fervor. This time the flames were coming near the monastery. The disciples requested the Guru to divert them in such a way as to cause the ill health of the king. And so the flames turned into a disease causing factor in the palace. Unable to withstand the pain of the disease, the king sent for his queen and the minister. He also had his personal physician attend on him, but to no purpose. The Buddhist priest tried all the traditional remedies on the king, in vain. In this wretched state of mind, he requested the queen and the minister to throw him into some river. The two then told him, a great yogi, Jnana Sambandhi Guru, has arrived in this town. He can cure you of all your malady. If you agree, we will send for him. The Guru was sent by the king and came there with all his paraphernalia and retinue. He asked the king to smear himself with the sacred ash, but the former refused to do so. Then the Guru asked the Buddhist priests to cure the king and added that if they failed, they had to embrace Hinduism. The king also promised to re-embrace Hinduism if the Buddhists could not help him. When they failed, they were asked to go away by the king. When the Guru applied the sacred ashes to the king's body, the latter was instantaneously cured. The king then said, Revered Guru, you save me, initiate me in Shiva worship, and take me as your disciple. After the initiation of the 5-letter mantra and the smearing of the sacred ash, the king not only was free from his fever, but also gained a taller statue. He was known to be the King Kubja pygmy till then. He told the Guru, I will do thy bidding. At the suggestion of the Guru, the king himself decorated his queen and his minister with the sacred ash and the rosary. The Guru changed the king's name as Sundara Pandya, handsome Pandya. Now that he was no longer short and ugly, Sundara called upon his people also to take up the special worship of Lord Shiva. Everyone was praising the Guru. Jealous of his fame, some of the Buddhist priests sent a message to the king to his effect. We will send a palm leaf script with our mantra. Please ask the Guru to prepare similar one with his mantra. Then throw the 2 scripts in the flame. The writer of the script which is not burned will be the winner. The Guru wrote Shiva on a similar palm leaf. The courtiers checked the 2 palm leaf scripts, and when they were consigned to the flames, the one written by the Buddhists was burned, but not the Guru's. Accusing the Guru of practicing the fire-stopping cult, the Buddhists then suggested another competition. The 2 palm leaves, each written by the Buddhist and the Guru, will be thrown into the river Kaveri, and that which is not drowned will give the victory to its writer. The script of the Buddhist was lost in the water, whereas that of the Guru reached the shore and the shore like a bright lotus and shone like a bright lotus. Sundara Pandya ordered the golden palanquin for the Guru. who was then led in the procession round the town. The Guru was also requested to be seated on the king's throne. As he did so, he was presented with valuable gifts by the king and the queen after they prayed to his feet in the traditional Hindu style. Later, the royal couple arranged the worship of Sundareswara and Meenakshi with 100,000 lotus and 10 million bilva leaves. They also gifted the temple with a golden palanquin and other golden things and ornaments used in the worship of God. Once again, Hinduism flourished in all its glory in the Pandya kingdom. By the grace of Parvati, Jnana Sambandhi Guru remained ever a 5-year-old Goldie child. It is said that he was the incarnation of Kumaraswamy. Bhakti Sirayala. In the town of Konjivaram, there lived a great Shiva devotee, Sirayala. Every day, after his prayers to Lord Shiva, he would entertain as his luncheon guest 6 fellow Saviti devotees. Even if one of the 6 men would not turn up on any day, Sirayala would refrain from eating his lunch. His wife, Sangalava, was his kindred spirit. They had a son named Siralu, who took after his parents in every respect. The boy learnt all the sacred studies from the worthy Guru. Thus, several days had gone by. One day, after the daily prayers, Sirayala saw that none of his luncheon guests has arrived. Searching for some other guests in the street, he came across an old monk who was dressed like a typical Sevati mendicant. He was none other than Lord Shiva, who came in disguise to test the worth of his devotee. Pleased with the appearance of the monk, Sirayala said, "Today, none of my usual guests have come. I cannot eat my food unless I am surrounded by guests. You have come like a godsend. Please come to my home and accept my humble hospitality." The old mendicant replied, "I admire your devotional spirit and sense of hospitality, but I will accept your invitation only if you will serve me the flesh of young healthy man. Untethered, Sirayala said, "I have an 8-year-old handsome son. I will kill him and have his flesh cooked for your meal. Believe me and follow me to my humble home." When they reached their destination, Sirayala informed his wife about the condition. She realized that Lord Shiva was thus testing them. When she informed their son about the human sacrifice, Siralu told her, "Mother, I am indeed lucky because the Lord is pleased to seek my flesh for his food. I am ready to be sacrificed." Sirayala cut his son into pieces and cooked a meal with them. He invited the old guest to partake of it. When the old guest finished his bath and sat for the meal, he saw the head of the boy was missing and complained about it to Sirayala. Sirayala said that it was only because he thought the hairy portion of the head would be unsuitable for eating that he did not include it in the food. Upon which the false guests asked Sirayala and his wife to sit beside them during the meal. When the couple complied with the request, he further asked them to invite their son to the meal. Sirayala said that they had only one son, who was already killed for the preparation of the guest's food. Angered, the guest threatened that he would leave the food untasted if the boy is not invited to join them. Seriala once again expressed his helplessness, and Sanglava wept aloud for their inability to call forth the dead son. Then the guest said, "Mother, don't cry. Just call your son thrice by name. If he does not turn up, we shall discuss the next step later." As his mother called out his name thrice, Sirulu Siriala appeared before them readily. Pleasantly surprised at the miraculous reappearance of their dead son, the couple fell prostrate at the feet of the guest. Lord Shiva assumed his real form and congratulated the trio on their devotion, singling out Sanglava for his special praise. "Lady, you have, by allowing the sacrifice of your only son, proved yourself to be the greater than Polumi, the mother of Jayanta, Aditi, the mother of Vamana, Saraswati, the mother of Kashyapa and other sages, Lakshmi, the mother of Manmatha, and Parvati, the mother of Kumar Swami and Ganpati." Afterwards, to the accompaniment of the singing and dancing of the Parmatha hordes, Shiva took along with him the three devotees of Kailasha, Dravida Manika Sachevas. There is a village named Vatapura near Madura, the capital of Pandya kingdom. There lived a worthy Brahmin who performed the Upanayanam of his son, where the latter was 5 year old. The boy was then trained in Vedic learning. By the time he was 16, he learned not only the scriptures but also foreign languages, art, and music. He was furthermore dedicated to the worship of Lord Shiva. Hearing about the boy's great learning, the king of the country, Arimardana, invited him to his court and asked him to be his master. Accepting the invitation, the boy in due course rose to the rank of the chief minister. By streamlining the administration for the greater benefit of the king as well as the subject, he won the admiration and affection of both the ruler and the ruled. By way of thanks, the king ceded to him the village of Vatpura and offered him many precious gifts, which included mighty horses and gigantic chariots. The king and the minister were mutually devoted. The chief minister, in the habit of finishing the ablution in the Padmini River, worshipping Lord Shiva, and then inviting deserving guests for the luncheon. He would also arrange for the feeding of the poor and needy every day. When he became a strong young man, he married a worthy Brahmin girl. The couple were living happily together. Once, the king's horses died of a mysterious fever. Then the king requested the chief minister to acquire suitable substitutes without counting the cost. Next day, as usual, the chief minister finished his ablution and worship. Later, he addressed Lord Shiva in the temple thus: "Lord, hitherto I could not fulfill the need of thy devotees. For what of fund? Now the king is prepared to spend any amount of money for the purchase of the horses of the noble breed. I beseech thee to take care of the king's request, so that I can divert these funds for the patronage of thy poor devotees." On the auspicious day, the chief minister set out on his errand, accompanied by his retinue and equipped with large funds. He first came across Brahmin, who offered him the sacred ash, saying that it would bring him good luck. Thanking the Brahmin, he and his party proceeded eastward. Before long, they reached the pilgrim center, Bhuvaneshwara. The chief minister was enraptured at the sight of the presiding deity, Bhuvaneshwara, and decided upon staying on there for the duration of a of month of Ashudha, June and July, at the end of which period he told himself that he would try to acquire worthy horses for the king. He sent back some of his retinue to Madura. One day, when he was proceeding towards the Bhuvaneshwara temple, he happened to see the great Guru surrounded by thousands of pupils. They were all being taught the Vedas with appropriate intonation. The chief minister saw Lord Shiva in the Guru and saluted him. The Guru was pleased with the obedience of the minister and initiated him in the several esoteric mantras as well as the skills of writing poetry and acquiring true knowledge. Investing the minister's speech with spontaneous fluency, the Guru named him 𝐂𝐻𝐿𝐿. Later, the Guru said that he had to go away.
Wait, Amma. His name is 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐿. 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐿. Okay.
Later, the Guru said that he had to go away on some business and entrusted to him the job of teaching him myriad disciples. Taking upon himself the responsibility of attending to their needs, the chief minister expended on them some of the funds the king gave him for purchasing the new horses. He also sent some funds to Madura for the establishment and upkeep of the Meenakshi and Sundareswara shrine. Learning about the latest development, the Pandya king was wild with fury and straightway sent a message to the chief minister to return home immediately, along with the horses. Reading the message, the irresolute 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐿 thus prayed, Lord Sundareshwara, I have received a message from the king, which I am unable to obey, because I have not a penny with me. I spent all the funds on good deeds and on the work dedicated to you. Now you are my sole refuge. Then the aerial voice was heard saying, O 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐿, write a letter to the Pandya king not to trust rumors, but to construct the stable in the readiness for the arrival of the horses, which would be brought by you before the end of 2 months. 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐿 did so, but still he was worried. That night, Sundareshwar appeared in his dream to him and asked him to return to Madura, promising that he would eventually send the horses. Accordingly, 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐿 went back to Madura and requested the king to wait the arrival of the noble horses. The king trusted him and presented him with a diamond necklace. 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐿 then bathed in the Padma lake and going to the temple, prayed to Ganpati, Kumarswamy, Meenakshi, and Sundareswara, beseeching them all to see that his purpose to the king would be duly fulfilled. The aerial voice again assured him that he would not be disappointed. Pleased, he went home and invited thousands of Brahmin guests for dinner. 𝐷𝐷𝐿𝐿's relatives alerted him that it would not be right to spend royal money in this fashion, and that if the horses would not turn up, he would be the butt of the king's anger. 𝐷𝐷𝐿 told the dependents, Please do not worry on my account. I am now completely detached from my worldly bounds. I am just waiting to fulfill my promise to the king. Once the horses arrive, I will leave for the forest to devote the rest of my life doing penance dedicated to Lord Shiva. Next day, the king called the minister and said, Manika Sachiva, when are you expecting the horses? The chief minister replied, In 2 or 3 days. Gladdened, the king ordered that the streets of the Madura be well decorated in preparation for the arrival of the noble horses. Similarly, visitors from other countries were eagerly staying on in expectation of feasting their eyes on the sight of the mighty horses. True to the king's tradition of rewarding those that please them and punishing the same people who when they displease them. The king ordered that the minister be imprisoned, tortured, and killed if the horses would not turn up at the end of the third day. When actually the horses did not come on the stipulated day, Manikya was imprisoned. As he was being tortured, he supplicated the Lord that he would be saved from the pain and ignominy of his predicament, inasmuch as he did not squander the royal funds on any unworthy cause, but spent them for doing the work dear to God. At last the heart of Sundareshwara, Lord Shiva incarnation, at last the heart of Sundareshwara, Lord of Shiva incarnation melted. He commissioned his Paramatha host to bring down the noble horses to Madura. They transformed their foxes into horses and brought them. Lord Shiva also changed his bull into a stallion and accompanied the horses riding on it. The streets of Madura were reverberating with the sound of the marching horses. The dust they kicked up was rising up to the skies. The riders of the multi-hued horses got down and entered the court of Pandya king, flourishing their dazzling sword and the armors. On seeing them, the king was awed and asked Manikya Sachiva to introduce to him the chief representative of the horse rider. Manikya replied, Your Majesty, I have no idea.
1 minute,
When your
madam.
men were
1 minute, madam. He is one among the Manika Vasaga. Manika Vasaga.
Manika.
Manika Vasaga.
Manika.
Manika means the ruby. Manika
Okay.
Vasaga is one among the 4 great saints of Saivite saints. Okay, Manika Vasaga. Okay.
Okay. Manikya replied, Your Majesty, I have no idea. When your men were torturing me, I worshipped Lord Shiva. Then the leader of the horse rider came to me. I informed him of my position and he promised to do the needful. I cannot ever say who the leader of the horse riders is. But the king pressured the minister further to try to recognize the leader. When Manikya was hesitating, Lord Sundareshwara, in the form of the chief horse rider, came upon the scene. Looking at his radiant form, the king was dazzled and went forward to greet him obediently. The horse rider said, O king, your chief minister is a noble devotee. He gave me the funds you entrusted him with. You punished him needlessly. Anyway, what is past is past. Now that you are in a position to appreciate the greatness of your minister and expiate your sin of getting him tortured, I assure you, I can give you any number of horses or any amount of money you may want from me. The king said, Sir, I do not really know who you are. I don't need any money. Just give me the horses. to augment the power of my cavalry. Thereby, I can conquer my enemies. And then, ruling the country without any harmful opposition, I can make it fertile and feed all my subjects. I am sorry I had minister tortured in my ignorance of his true worth. Now, please explain to me the traits of the best breed of horses. When the leader did so, the king was much delighted and gave him and other horse riders several rich gifts. The leader and his followers then went to Sundareshwara Meenakshi temple and disappeared there and then. The king rewarded the minister suitably. The people who saw the horses were greatly impressed by their grand looks. Manika returned home and entertained several Brahmin guests to dinner. That very night, the horses returned to their original shape of jackals. They began wailing and committing their other acts of nuisance natural to them. Consequently, the citizens were disturbed in their sleep. When they opened their house doors to see what was wrong, the jackals ran away. The jackals heard the horses that were formerly in the stable. Learning the news, the king was angry and thinking that it was all the plot of the ministers sent for him. When Manika came before him, the king said that unless he would bring back the horse or refund the funds, he would again be tortured and killed. Manika said that he was innocent, that he was prepared to return the gifts the king gave him, and that he would face with equanimity whatever treatment the king was going to mete out to him. The hard-hearted king turned a deaf ear to Manika's plea and ordered his men to torture him. During the torture, Manik prayed to Lord Sundareshwara for succor. Thereupon the Lord ordered the Vigavati river to inundate the entire city of Madura. The soldiers who were torturing Manik ran to their homes to protect their families from the flood. By the grace of Sundareshwara, Manik was unshackled. Returning home, he bade and then worshipped Lord Sundareshwara and other deities gratefully. At the king, who was looking for the men to do something to prevent the water flooding the whole town, not one came in sight. He asked the single available man to cry out for the building of the wall against the flooded river, as the town was about to be submerged in the river water. The king realized that it was retribution of his getting Manik tortured. So he sent for Manik and apologized to him, at the same time asking him to save the town and the town people from watery grave. Manik took along with him the king to the temple and prayed, Lord, I spent all my royal funds on the deeds dedicated to thee. Under the wrong impression that I misused them, the king punished me. All our human follies are dedicated by our natural delusions and illusions. Forgive the king and myself, and save our town and our people. The Lord said, the king should know that the money he has under his control is not really his, but given to him by the God for the protection of the people. Now that he realizes that fact, I will spare him. I wanted to punish him for his folly. He came to his senses, so I ordered the river Vegavati to recede to its former position. After the king and the minister offered their obeisance, the Lord disappeared. The 𝐸𝐽𝐺vati river quieted. All the relief people offered their thanksgiving prayers to Sundareshwara and Meenakshi. Uh, Lippy, you want to do it? Or Manuji?
Yeah, I can read. I can read.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Grand Minister Basveshwara. In the Karnataka country, in a Brahmin hamlet, lived a pious Vedic scholar named Mandrenga Madiraju. His wife was named Madamba. They had no children. Madamba performed the Nandikesha consecration for that purpose. Lord Nandikeshwara entered her womb in one of his aspects, but she was not delivered of a child even after the regular 9 months gestation. Undeterred, the good couple continued to pray to Nandi and to the good deeds like entertaining worthy guests at lunch, offering them the food dear to Nandi. Unable to bear the burden of the fetus any longer, Madamba supplicated Nandi for deliverance. He appeared to her in a dream that night and assured her that soon a male child would be born to her. Accordingly, a son was born to her when an auspicious star was in the ascendant. The child was given the customary purificatory bath. Lord Sangameshwara then entered the child's room and after smearing the child with sacred ash, decorating him with the Shiva emblem, and initiating him in Namah Shivaya mantra, he instructed the elders to offer the child the nourishment which is first consecrated to Lord Shiva. One minute, please. Just a minute, please. Sorry. On the 11th day after the birth of the child, his naming ceremony was performed with traditional dignity and decorum, and he was christened Basava. When Basava was 5 years old, he was sent to a Gurukul where he studied all temporal and spiritual branches of learning. When he was 8 years old, his parents wanted to perform his Upanayanam. Then the boy said, "You know that Lord Sangameshwara initiated me in all the sacred duties. I don't see any reason for further consecration or for serving other gurus." Madiraju replied, "What you say is true, no doubt. But you see, the traditional ceremonies have to be performed duly in all cases. Upanayanam is a mandatory ceremony for all Dvijas, whether they want to enter the life of the householder or become ascetics later on. The Gayatri mantra, which is taught to the child during this ceremony, starts with Om, which is the pranava that is sacred to all orders of life. The Bharga term in that mantra represents Lord Shiva. The 5 tufts of the hair left after shaving the head on that occasion, the staff, the G string, the deer skin, and the like, are part of Lord Shiva's external paraphernalia. You must respect our family tradition, even if you have no personal conviction in this matter." But Basava was adamant and reiterated that the initiation he already had in the ways of Shiva worship was enough for him. He added that if his father did not see eye to eye with him, he was prepared to leave him. As he was actually getting ready to leave his parents, accompanied by his sister Nagamba, his maternal uncle Bandari Balideva, the commander in chief of King Bijala, came forward to receive him and took his nephew and his niece to his home. Now Basava was 16 years old. He was now a strong youth. Although he was thinking of nothing or nobody else but Lord Shiva, he was now of an age when marriage was part of his mundane duty. So he married a 13-year-old daughter of his uncle. The wedding was well performed and well attended. Receiving the blessings of the elders, Basava, accompanied by his wife and his sister, went to pay his respects to his guru at Kappadi Sangameshwara Pilgrim Center. They bowed to Lord Sangameshwara from outside the temple by falling prostrate. The Lord showed them the way, assuming the guise of an ascetic. Enraptured, Basava praised the Lord through scriptural hymns. When Basava offered all the sacred oblations, Sangameshwara blessed him and taught him the ways and means of Shiva worship before re entering the idol. All those who witnessed that sublime scene were devotionally impressed by the grace of God. Basava and the two ladies stayed on for some time at that pilgrim center. All those who heard him speak about the glory and grace of Lord Shiva became his disciples. Meanwhile, Bandari Balideva died at Kalyanpura. Regretting his death, the Bijala king asked his advisors if any of the relatives of the deceased was fit to succeed him, to which the advisors replied that the nephew of the dead commander-in-chief was even greater in every respect than his uncle, and therefore should be invited to take the place of Balideva. Although the Bijala king was a Jain, he heard with satisfaction the Shaivite virtues of Basava as recounted by the advisors and willingly sent for him. Getting the king's message, Basava arrived in Kalyanpura along with his wife, his sister, and his pupils. He was received with honors as befitting a future commander in chief. When offered the post of the defender of the nation, Basveshwara assured the king that Lord Shiva would protect them all if they merely placed their trust in him, and that he would make the king the lord of the whole world eventually. The king then took Basava to Balideva's home. Basava offered his condolences to the relations and later took charge of his apportioned duty with apt skill and dedication. He rose above the distinctions of caste and the order of life and taught the all embracing philosophy of the Upanishads to one and all. Hearing about the glory of Basaveshwara, the incarnation of Shiva, Lord Allama, went to meet him with a view to giving him his blessings in person. Basava received and worshipped the divine guest with due traditional honors. Yes. Traditional honors. Lord Allama ate up the consecrated food, prasadam, meant for 190,000 people, as it was being devotionally offered to him. Not a morsel of the oblation remained. Having no other go, Basava offered himself to Allama, asking to be eaten by that lord. Satisfied with the sincerity and intensity of Basava's devotion, Allama Prabhu said, Basveshwara, your spirit of devotion is matchless. I am now giving you this prasad, which will make you invincible and grant you double of whatever you wish for. You can withstand the onslaught of your foes and the Jangamas with the aid of this sacrificial offering. So saying, he disappeared. One night, burglars tried to break into Basava's home and steal all his valuables, but they couldn't manage to get in. So they wore black brinjals as though they were the linga of Lord Shiva and were awaiting a chance of breaking in. Meanwhile, they were observing the worshipping habits of the Rudra hordes inside the mansion. Before long, the brinjals round their necks turned into real Shivalingas. Besides, the devotion for Lord Shiva was automatically generated in them. They too took part in the communal Shiva worship. Realizing their true conversion, Basava rewarded them plentifully. They were ashamed of their former evil ways and since then became staunch Shaivites as well as the disciples of Basveshwara. One day, a Shiva devotee requested Basava to supply him 10 tons of pearls in order to prepare the pearl powder for the decoration of a Shiva shrine. Even as Basava glanced at the heap of corns before him, it was transformed into a mound of pearls. Basava asked the devotee to take them all. On another day, a Jangama devotee came and asked for as much wealth as was in the king's treasury, and Basava readily fulfilled his wish. The king's men informed him about Basava's gift. On being sent for and asked for an explanation by the king, Basava said that the money that was given to the Jangama was not from the royal treasury and asked the king to check up. When the king opened his treasury and saw the funds intact, he apologized to Basava. Once an amorous youth, engaged in the love play with several courtesans, sent one of the maids of the bawdy house to fetch a Nitya Padi from Basava. As the maid was getting it from Basava's place, she saw the bright silk sari which the wife of Basava was wearing and going home, incited her mistress to ask Basava for the garment of his wife. Basava agreed without hesitation to give away the rich raiment. As Gangaba, the wife of Basava, was removing the sari she wore to give it away to the courtesan, a fresh sari appeared again and again in its place, all of which were also ceded to the young lover to be presented to the courtesan. One day the lord of Kapadi, Sangameshwara, came to Basava in the form of Jangama, mendicant, and asked for his third eye. Realizing that it was Sangameshwara in disguise, he asked the guest to go and look at himself in a mirror. As the Jangama did so, there appeared his third eye in its usual place. Sangameshwara was ashamed of himself for trying to test such a staunch devotee as Basava. As he was trying to disappear, Basava told Sangameshwara, Lord, how can a devotee of thine prove himself to be a lesser person than thyself? Thou art one without beginning and end, and all those who devotionally identify themselves with thee become thine equals. Smiling in approval, Sangameshwara disappeared. Basava was also able to fulfill his promise of making King Bijjala the emperor of the world. Thus, several days passed by. The Bijjala king, in course of time, lost his regard for Basava and caused the eye of two of the latest devotees to be plucked out, even though they were not guilty of any crime. Angered at this treacherous act, Basava left the court of Bijjala king with the resolve of seeing his end, and went to the temple of Sangameshwara at Kappadi, along with his family and his devotee mates like Madivala Machaya, Moliga Marraya, and Kinnera Brahmaya. In the meantime, the two blinded men, Mallaya and Madhupaya, went to meet the minister Jangadeva and complained to him about the misdeed of the king. The mother of the minister advised him to kill the Bijjala king. Thereupon, the two injured men and the minister went to the court of the king and cut off his head. None of the king's men could resist the three men, who gained their strength from their righteous indignation. Later, the three heroes went to Kapadi and reported to Basveshwara all that transpired after praying to Lord Sangameshwara. Basava was relieved to know that the purpose of his birth on earth was fulfilled now, so decided to leave the earth and be united with God. He told Sangameshwara, Lord, my mission is over. Take me. Lord Sangameshwara smilingly received him into his spirit, and both of them finally entered the Shivalinga. All those who saw that sublime scene felt that their lives were sanctified and returned home, singing the praises of Sangameshwara and Basveshwara. Pandit Mallikarjun Chakravarti. On the banks of the river Godavari is situated the pilgrim center Drakshar, Draksharamam. The presiding deity of the place is Lord Bhimeshwara. The priest of the temple is Bhimaradhya of the lineage of Gautama. Childless, he was constantly uttering the name of Lord Shiva, Namah Shivaya. Once he visited Sri Sailam, and there, in the presence of Lord Mallikarjun, was chanting the five-lettered mantra Namah Shivaya. Pleased with his devotion, the Lord granted that his wife be pregnant. In due course, she gave birth to a male child who was named after the Lord that granted his birth, Mallikarjuna. He was sent to the Gurukul at the age of 5, and his Upanayanam was performed when he was 8. Even as a child, he mastered all temporal and spiritual studies. That was why the honorific prefix Pandita was added to his name by the people at large. Leaving from Kotipalli, he took the Veera Shaiva vow from the Guru Visvaradhya. Mallikarjun was in the habit of praying to the Lord during all his waking hours and in patronizing and honoring the fellow Shiva devotees. Some people who were jealous of his piety and fame started scoffing at the devotees who were displaying the external marks of a Shaivite, like wearing the linga locket and smearing the body with the sacred ash. Then Mallikarjun called an assembly of wise men and convincingly explained the need for the external symbols and other practices of the Shaivites. Consequently, many of these humble men became his disciples. Later, Mallikarjun started traveling over the region surrounded by the rivers Godavari, Krishna, Tungabhadra, and Kaveri in order to propagate the ideals of Shiva cult. Once Mallikarjun went to the forest to fetch the flowers and the fruits for the consecration to Lord Shiva. As he was returning home, he ran across a Veera Shaivite, extreme devotee of the Shiva cult named Mahadevaya. The latter, without noticing it, set his foot on a flower meant for Shiva worship. Thereby, he felt guilty of sacrilege and cut off his foot. Seeing his piteous state and admiring his extreme devotedness to Shiva, Mallikarjun, returning home, gathered a bit of oil from the lamp lighted in the presence of Lord Shiva's image and applied it to the leg of Mahadevaya. The leg was healed and the foot was set in its proper position. Mahadevaya bowed to Mallikarjun's feet. The children of Mahadevaya also expressed their admiration to Mallikarjun and became his ardent disciples. When he finished his task of propagating the Shaivite ideals traveling on foot from place to place, he set them in the form of a book, Sita Tattva Saramu, the essence of the Shiva entity. Although he heard with pleasure the reports about Basveshwara's good work, he did not quite appreciate the latter's liberal views to the effect that all that matters is devotion, but not the system of caste or the order of life, Varna, Ashrama, Dharma. Still, the two great devotees respected each other. Once a Buddhist preacher, accompanied by 1,000 followers, entered the Andhra country. In the village of Chandavolu, he converted the potentate Velanati Choda to Buddhism. He also boasted that the Vedic faith was wrong and that he would defeat the Shaivite tenets in a battle of wits. When the potentate informed the preacher about Mallikarjun, the Buddhist requested the Choda to send for the Shaivite leader so as to enable him to defeat the latter in an argument. When the debate was arranged, the Buddhist started it thus: the Vedas have no proper or sacred authority. There is no creator of the world. The creation comes and ceases to be of its own. There is neither rebirth, nor heaven and hell, nor vice and virtue. The only religion is non-violence, ahimsa. Uttering a silent prayer to Shiva and Parvati, Mallikarjun retorted, the Vedas are self evolved, like the inhalation and the exhalation of God. They are eternal. They are needed for the edification of the populace who have to know what they should and should not do. Just as there is no effect without cause, there can be no creation without the Creator. Even an atheist cannot deny his own existence. God is the existence behind all existence because it is an axiom that out of pre existing life comes life and that nothing comes out of nothing. They who deny the existence of God do so only out of ignorance. The product of knowledge is the self identity with the universal self or the eternal source God. An ignorant mortal, an ignorant mortal being like man cannot by himself be the source of creation any more than can the clay turn itself into a pot without the aid of the potter. The essence and the existence of God can be demonstrated by any authority of the scripture or of logic, that is, direct perception or indirect inference. As the Chandogya Upanishad puts it, Sat eva Soumya idam agre asit. Pure existence only was before this creation. The process of creation, preservation, and destruction, followed by recreation, is the function of an essence which transcends the limited powers of the individual creature. That primordial essence and existence, which is God, is at the root of the power of volition, action, and knowledge, which motivate and animate the human individual. If there were no rebirth or former birth, we cannot explain the differences in the children of the same parents or the ill luck of virtuous people and the good luck of vicious people. So stop your atheism, accept the existence and of all pervasive, all merciful God, and save yourself before it is too late. For you do not know when again you will get this human birth, in which alone is there the freedom to act knowingly, to pick and choose. As such wise words fell from the learned lips of Mallikarjun, the Buddhist Guru found himself speechless. The judges awarded victory in the debate to Mallikarjun. The Buddhist Guru escaped. Going to the seashore, he made arrangements for the performance of voodoo rites, Abhichara Homa, to kill Mallikarjun indirectly. Learning about this plot, the disciples of Mallikarjun, Remaya and Rechaya, went to the Buddhist teacher and cut off his head. On being queried about the justice of his disciples' action by the king, Mallikarjun justified the murder, upon which the king said that it would be equally just on his part to kill Mallikarjun. Then Mallikarjun replied that he would kill himself before being killed by the king. So saying, he cut off his head, and yet the head would rejoin the trunk. Then he plucked out his two eyes. The eyes also went back to their original position. All those who saw that miraculous scene were astounded, and yet the fire of the king's anger was not quenched. He asked his men to pluck out the eyes of Mallikarjun and had poisonous juice poured into the sockets. Then Mallikarjun cursed the king that he and his clan would perish. Later, Mallikarjun left for Amravati Pilgrim Center, where he recited the Amaresha hymn extemporaneously. Lord Amaresha was pleased with his prayer and granted him his full eyesight. All the people praised the devotional spirit of Mallikarjun. The Velanati Choda king and his clan perished. With the idea of meeting Basveshwara, Mallikarjun left for Kalyanpura. On the way, he stopped for a while in a village named Irugudumula. Hearing about his arrival there, Basava sent him the sacred ash as a token of goodwill. By accepting that gift, Mallika Arjun was instantaneously able to learn the Kannada language. So he incorporated some hundreds of Kannada verses into his Telugu publication, Sivatattva Saramu. From Irugudumula, he reached the village of Panuganti, where there was a great Shiva devotee named Dhavaleshu Namayya. Some jealous people carried false tales about him to the ruler of that country. Without properly judging the truth or otherwise of the reports, the ruler ordered the killing of Namayya. Without waiting for the king's men to carry out the execution, Namayya himself cut off his head. Immediately he was united with Lord Shiva. Learning about this incident, Mallikarjun soon left that village and went to a village named Vanapuri near Kalyanpura. There he learnt about how Basava himself joined the spirit of Lord Shiva at Kappadi Sangameshwara Pilgrim Center. Mallikarjun lamented his inability to see the corporeal form of Basava. Thereafter he reached Sri Sailam, walking from a nearby forest up to the steps of the sacred shrine there. As he saw the temple tower, Sri Giri, he found in it the symbol Linga of Lord Shiva. Therefore he hesitated to step on the Sri Sailam hill with his feet. Accordingly, he commissioned one of his disciples, Dosaya, to go and pray to Lord Mallikarjuna and goddess Brahmaramba on his behalf also. Lord Mallikarjuna met Dosaya halfway in the guise of an old hermit and had shown him around the shrine, including the image of the Lord at the top, Shikhareshwara. The idol of Lord Mallikarjun, the Shakti symbols of Brahmaramba, the idols of Sakshi Ganapati, of Vireshwara and his consort, of Hatakesha and of Sarangeshwara, the Yantra of Namah Shivaya, the Mallika Kundam, the Patala Ganga, the Linga Ghat, the Siddha Cave, the Bilva, and the other four gardens, the five mathas, the miraculous trees, the shining creepers, the magic touchstone, Sparshavedi, and other worth-seeing sights. Dosaya felt that his existence was sanctified. He offered his prayers at the feet of Lord Mallikarjun and took his leave of the old ascetic. Returning to the presence of his guru, Dosaya reported all that happened to him in and around the shrine. Mallikarjun felt that his own life purpose was served thereby and addressed Lord Mallikarjun to receive him into his supreme spirit. Accordingly, Lord Mallikarjun and goddess Brahmaramba received the Mallikarjun couple into their innate symbols, Linga and Shakti. Dosaya informed the son of Pandit Mallikarjun about the incidents at Sri Sailam. The son performed the last rites to his parents. He lived in the noble tradition of his noble father. Dosaya was advising him in every desirable manner. Poet Malhana. In Aryavarta country, a wealthy Brahmin parents had a son late in life. He was named Malhana. Performing his Upanayanam when he was 8 years old, the parents sent him to the Gurukul. He soon learnt all the sacred duties. When Malhana was 12 years old, both his parents died. Malhana later went to his maternal grandfather to learn Kannada's Vaiseshika system of philosophy, Panini's grammar, and the Alankara Shastras. He was now 18 years old, handsome, strong, and exuberantly young. One day he, along with his friends, went to worship the Lord in the town's Shiva shrine. After finishing the prayers, he was sitting in the mandapa. At that time, there arrived the 16-year-old daughter of the town's chief courtesan. She played the Mohana Rag on the veena and held the audience spellbound with her musical skill. As she was leaving the temple, she glanced sideways at Malhana, who, along with his mates, was one of the audience that was moved by her artistry. Their eyes met. Returning home, Malhana was restless. He could relish his food or sleep well. Should be he couldn't relish his food or sleep well. Her friends realized the state of his mind and were inwardly laughing at his absent-mindedness. When his grandparents wanted him to marry a girl of his own caste, he said that he was not yet prepared to get married. So the elders left the decision to himself. One day a friend of his took Malhana to the home of the courtesan. The chief courtesan took them inside and asked them to be seated. Then she asked her daughter to come and bowed to Malhana and his friend. Introducing her, the mother said, "Gentlemen, this is my daughter. She is named Pushpa Gandhi. She is well versed in music and the arts. She is now of marriageable age. I am on the lookout for a suitable husband. Then Malhana's friend smilingly said, My friend is a rich bachelor. He loves your daughter and will gladly make her mistress. The old courtesan said, Sir, many princes and merchants wanted to marry this daughter of mine, offering many rich gifts, but I refused them all. Now I see that my daughter is also pleased to meet this handsome friend of yours, so I am willing to offer her to your friend. So saying, she placed her daughter's hand in Malhana's. Malhana's friend, feeling that his task was finished, quietly left the place. Malhana placed a bundle of golden coins in Pushpa Gandhi's hands. She handed it to her mother. Then the girl led him to the bedchamber, which was already furnished with the customary articles prepared for the nuptial night. The young couple spent the whole night in tender and ardent love play. Early next morning, Malhana unwillingly left Pushpa Gandhi and returned home. Thus several days passed by, with Malhana spending the nights in Pushpa Gandhi's company. The wise words of his grandparents could not convince him of his folly. He squandered all his property on pleasing Pushpa Gandhi. One day, when Malhana, now poor, visited the body house with bare hands, the old courtesan asked him what sort of a gift he had brought to her daughter. When he protested that he already gave his all to her daughter, she said, Which girl will enjoy the company of a poor man? If you do not get out of this house right now, I will ask my servants to kick you out. Go. Pushpa Gandhi, still in love with Malhana, wanted to stop her mother's threats, but the old woman asked her to go inside and stop talking nonsense. As Malhana was shamefacedly returning home, Pushpa Gandhi met him through the back door and asked him to meet her at the Shiva shrine at a certain hour in the evening. When they met at the temple, she explained her position regretfully, adding that the world would not appreciate his marriage to a courtesan. So she said she would render any help he asked of her before they part from each other. Malhana said he could not think of anything. Then Pushpa Gandhi said, Friend, you enjoyed my company for 12 years. There is no contentment in the enjoying of the sensual pleasures. Desire increases with its enjoyment, like the fire into which the clarified butter or any other oily oblation is poured. So now bid farewell to the physical joys and find your unending bliss in the service and worship of God. The wise counsel of Pushpa Gandhi opened the eyes of Malhana, who readily uttered this prayer. Kanta kacha prachaya pushpa sugandhi gandha, lubdha brahmat brahmara karbura kandharaya, gandharva yaksha sura siddha kirita koti, sanghatta grishta charanaya namah shivaya. I bow to Lord Shiva, whose neck is of the rich hue of the bee, which, excited by their perfume, flocks on the flowers that adorn the braids of lovely women, and whose feet are pressed by the crowns of the saluting devotees like Gandharvas, Yakshas, Suras, and Siddhas. Pushpa Gandhi was glad that her advice found ready response. Malhana was extemporaneously composing the devotional hymns as Pushpa Gandhi was putting them on paper. Thus he recited 36 verses. His devotional spirit now became firm. Thankfully escorting Pushpa Gandhi to her home, Malhana thereafter lived in the ways of God and finally became one with Lord Shiva. When Pushpa Gandhi returned home, her mother introduced her to two rich lovers, of whom she was free to choose the one she liked better. Pushpa Gandhi said, Mother, I have no more use for money. I have deserted all the cravings of the flesh. My mind is now dedicated to Lord Shiva. I am going to be a nun in the service of God. If you force me into the old evil ways, I will certainly hang myself before dawn. The mother could not come in the way of her beloved daughter. Eventually, Pushpa Gandhi was also united with Lord Shiva in spirit. The reading or hearing of the sacred story of Malhana and Pushpa Gandhi is conducive to self realization, besides being a worthy illustration of devotion to Lord Shiva. Manuji, you can take now.
Sam Sadashiv, Namah Shivaya. Udbhataradhya Guru. On the lovely silver mountain Kailasa, Shiva and Parvati were strolling in the pleasure garden Picking the beautiful flowers, Shiva was decorating the tresses of Parvati with them. At that juncture, a group of Gandharva men and women from Alkapura landed there and were making much noise. Nandi, the constant companion of Shiva, warned them to go elsewhere. Because of the divine couple were enjoying together the beauty of nature in its quiet splendor. The Gandharva women neglected the divine bull's warning and continued to go towards the bush where Shiva and Parvati were sporting. Thereupon, Shiva cursed them to be born as sprites. As the women were transforming into witches, the Gandharva king Chitrarath fell at the feet of Lord Shiva and begged on behalf of the Gandharva women to forgive them. Lord Shiva said, "Sir, the effects of predestination must be experienced anyway. Anyway, there is a place called Salaki. Let these sprites go and occupy a banyan tree there, and from there cause affliction to the good people of that place. Keep eating the meat of animals, my mental child, Udbhata, who will be the guru of the king of Salaki, will come there. By feeling the smoke of his body's heat, you and your women will be freed from my implication." Chitrath and his retinue accordingly went to Salaki, and remaining under the shadows of the banyan tree, were awaiting the arrival of Udbhata. One day, while Lord Shiva was meditating on how to release the Gandharvas from his curse, a part of his energy took the shape of a boy who was his exact image. The boy bowed to the Lord's feet and asked for his orders. Shiva said, "Go to the town of Salaki, give the Sivalinga to Munjubhoj, the local ruler, propagate the Vedic religion, and release the Gandharvas from my imprecation. You must leave this godly form of yours and go in human shape to Varanasi and appear there as one born supernaturally outside of the mother's womb in the presence of Lord Vishweshwara, my direct image there. You will then assume the Gotra of Bharadwaj and marry a chaste daughter of Brahma. You will be blessed with worthy sons who will be the rulers of Mudigonda principality, as well as the world teachers who will ever strive for the propagation of the Shiva cult." When the boy went to Varanasi, Lord Visveshwara spoke from his image to the priests and assembled devotees. "Gentlemen, this boy is Udbhata, who is born to propagate the religion of Upanishads and to save the sinners. Please arrange his wedding to some deserving girl and accept him as your guru so that you and your posterity will ever be blessed." Miraculously, the boy appeared there, and then, as a 6-year-old, a good Brahmin took the boy to his home and got him well educated. When Udbhata came of age, he was married to the daughter of another good Brahmin, Subuddhi. Learning about the arrival and progress of Udbhata, the king of the holy city paid the noble youth his respects and offered him rich gifts. Udbhata started lecturing daily in the temple of Lord Visveswara about the exclusive worth and importance of the Saivite religion. But by virtue of his great teachings, many worthy devotees were converted to the Shiva cult and saved themselves from eternal damnation thereby. Once Udbhata, accompanied by his disciple, went to Kashmir, where at the court of King Jayapada he taught the essence of the Upanishads to the assembled men and women. Receiving many gifts from the king, he visited several other principalities on his way back home, performing the same function of the teacher of the Upanishadic wisdom to the masses of willing listeners. Udbhata's wife eventually gave birth to a son who was named Mallikarjun Guru. Mallikarjun, who proved himself to be a worthy son of a worthy father, authored a scholarly Sanskrit work called Kavya Alankara Sangraha. Meanwhile, the ruler of Salaki, Paramatheshwara, visited Varanasi and worshipped Visveswara along with his wife. The Lord appeared before the royal couple and assured them that if the queen, Prabhavati, ate the fruit he was giving them, she would soon be with child. In due course, Prabhavati became pregnant and was delivered of a son who was christened Bhoj. Bhoj followed in the footsteps of his father and he married two worthy girls, Matta and Kasini. He spread his kingdom far and wide by virtue of his valor. When his father grew old and left Varanasi alone with his mother, Bhoja succeeded to the throne. Then he kept waiting for a good teacher who would initiate him in the Shiva cult. On early morning, Lord Shiva appeared before him and said, "O king, 30 days from now, my mental child, Udbharataradhya will arrive in your court and instruct you the method of wearing the Shivalinga." Bhoj was waiting for Udbhata's arrival. When Udbhata came on the 30th day after the Lord appeared before Bhoja, the king saluted him in traditional reverence. The scholar adorned the ruler with a sacred ash, uttering the word, "Shiva Raksha, may Lord Shiva protect you." Bhoj then gladly acknowledged his long felt need for the wearing of the Shivalinga, which alone would drive away man's innate ignorance, and thanked Udbhata for his gracious initiation. Udbhata said, "It is due to the good works done in your former births that you have cultivated greater love for Lord Shiva than for all your kingly and familiar possessions. The best period to be initiated into the courtyard of Shiva worship and to wear the linga are the 4 lunar months of Ashvayuja, Kartika, Margashirsha, Faguna, Vaishakh, and Jesht. The month of Magh is only of middle merit. For that purpose, the other 5 months have only a lowly merit. The period of the eclipse, both of the sun and of the moon, is beneficial. Equally auspicious are bright fortnight, the 5th day of the dark fortnight, the time when the stars Rohini, Mrigshira, Pushyani, Punarvasu, Hasta Anuradha, Uttara Faguna, Uttara Ashada, Mool, and Revati are in the ascendant, and the fixed constellations. Prescribed are the periods when the constellations are on the move, and when it is the 4th or the 6th or the 8th or the 9th or the 14th or the 15th day of either fortnight. Munj Bhoj, along with his wives, chose an auspicious period to receive a linga from Udbhata. At the king's request, Udbhate and his family shifted to Sallaki. Both the scholar and the ruler did their best for the propagation of the Shiva cult. As the number of the Shaivites was steadily growing, Udbhata now applied himself to the release of the Gandharvas from Shiva's imprecation. Accordingly, he took his sacred dip in the river, wore all the external symbols of Shaivism, and sitting in the highest transcendent yogic posture, let his mundane life flow out from him through his head into the infinite. Udbhata's family and King Bhoja for a while grieved over his end and later cremated him according to his last wish. As soon as the smoke from the funeral pyre touched them, the sprites in the banyan tree were released from their curse and regaining their Gandharva form returned to Alkapura. Udbhata's son Mallikarjun, after performing his father's funeral rites duly and firmly establishing over some years the kingdom of Shiva in Sallaki, returned to his native Mudigonda. In due course, Mallikarjun's wife gave birth to a worthy son who was christened Polana. Since then, the lineage of Polana came to be known with the surname Mudigonda, and his descendants were scattered over the neighboring villages of Madla, Rentapilla, Medipalem, Dhavalpuri, and other places. Munj Bhoja ruled his people with dedication and finally was united with Lord Shiva in spirit. Bhakta Kinnera Brahmaya. Once upon a time, there lived in the village of Oduru a great devotee named Brahmaya. He was dedicated to Linga worship, and his uncompromising devotion was to Lord Shiva and Veerasaiva religion. He loved all humanity. He was well versed in music and played the veena exceedingly well. He was in the habit of inviting musicians, hear them sing or play, and he would gift them large property. Since he used to play the instrument Kinnera along with the invited musicians, he was popularly known as Kinnera Brahmaya. His singing as well as the playing of the instrument was to the tune of the hymns dedicated to Lord Shiva. To pay his respects to the Basaveshwara, Brahmaya journeyed to Kalyanpura. Brahmaya was received in traditional style by Basaveshwara. At the latter's request, Brahmaya stayed on there as his guest. One day, Brahmaya went to the temple of Tripurantak and after finishing his prayers, rested in the main hall of meditation. A sheep, which was being taken to the home of a courtesan by her lover, broke loose and was taking shelter in the temple. The lover searched the temple, found the animal, and was trying to take it away. Brahmaya told the lover that he would buy the animal and requested him to release it. The sheep was, in the meantime, approaching Brahmaya and resting at his feet. The lover said that he would sell the animal for 1,000 gold pieces. Brahmaya readily paid the amount. Leaving the animal behind, the lover went to meet his mistress. On being asked about his promise of offering her a sheep, the lover told her all that happened. As he was trying to pacify her by paying her the gold pieces, she threw them in his face and asked him to get out of her house because he was a coward who could not keep his promise of offering her the sheep. Still determined to make good his promise, the lover went back to the temple and wanted to take back the sheep. When Brahmaya protested that the animal was Shiva's property and love threateningly showed to him a sharp instrument, alugu. Angered Brahmaya snatched the alugu from the lover and cut off his head, which flew out of the temple. Since the trunk of a man who set a knot the command of devotee of Shiva, it was ordered to be thrown out of the temple immediately. The relatives of the lover reported the matter to Basaveswara, who then demanded an explanation from Brahmaya for his ghastly deed and asked him to prove the truth of his statement that the lover was a Shiva apostate. Brahmaya appealed to Lord Tripurkanteshwara to bear him witness. Instantaneously, the noble sound of Om was heard all over the shrine. When Brahmaya repeated his request for greater clarification of the Lord's agreement with his deed, the incarnation of Shiva thrice spoke about yes. Vasveswara and other devotees were astonished at the efficacy of Brahmaya's faith in Lord Shiva. They also begged him to bring the lover back to life. Brahmaya gladly acceded to their request and brought together the head and the trunk of the lover. Sprinkling the sacred water mixed with the holy ash over the lover, he said, "Get up." The revived lover bowed to the feet of Brahmaya and sought his forgiveness. Brahmaya stayed for a few more days at Vasveswara's guest, taught about the glory of Lord Shiva to the devotees, and eventually returned home, where he continued his good deeds dear to Shiva and beneficial to humanity at large. Hemareddy Malamma. In a village near the Sri Salem Pilgrims Center was living a wealthy householder named Somi Reddy. He and his wife were gifted by God with a daughter in their late life. She was christened Malamma because she was the gift of Lord Mallikarjuna. Malamma was entirely devoted to the worship of Lord Malleshwara Mallikarjuna. When Malamma came of age, she was married to Brahmara Reddy, the son of a rich, respectable citizen, Hemma Reddy. Although Brahmara Reddy was uneducated and unwise, Somi Reddy, assured of the wealth of the family, gave his daughter's hand in marriage to him. At the time of sending Mallamma to her new home, Somi Reddy told Hema Reddy, Mallamma lost her mother in childhood. I have been a father as well as a mother to her since then. Now I am placing her in the hands of your son. You, for your past, must take my place to her. Hema Reddy assured Somi Reddy that Mallamma would be well taken care of in her new home and that her father was free to visit her whenever he wanted. Mallamma, seeing her grieving parent, assured him that she would live up to the ideals handed down by tradition and that he should not be sad to see her go away from her old home because a woman's place is always by her husband. After a tearful farewell from the people near and dear to her, Mallamma reached her father-in-law's home in Siddhapuram safely. Hema Reddy is a perfect gentleman, but his wife, Pedamma, is a vixen, in whose hands is the management of the household. Besides, the sister-in-law, wife of the elder brother of Mallamma's husband of Mallamma, named Nagamma, was jealous of the new bride's good looks and accomplishments. While pressing the feet of her mother-in-law, Nagamma spoke thus, "What kind of a girl is this new daughter-in-law of yours? What for does she put on that ash and wear that rosary? This girl's mother died, and she was brought up by her father. How can such a woman know the ways of a good housewife?" Later, Hema Reddy told his wife that the arrival of the new bride in the home brought them with great good fortune because that year the harvest yielded 10 times more than the crop of the previous 10 years. Pedamma flared up. "Don't be hasty in your judgment. One swallow does not make a summer." Seeing her queer dress and habits, it would appear that she is not used to household duties. We must teach her how to be a good housewife. Nagamma heard Pedamma's words with glee, but Hema Reddy was uneasy in mind. However, he is henpecked and could not shade wife. Once, when Malma finished her prayer and offered the sacramental food and water to her mother in law and her sister in law, co daughter in law, in Indian English, they refused the holy offerings and even made fun of her. Malama kept quiet, wondering what sort of predestination was of theirs. They refused the offerings of God. Meanwhile, Lord Mallikarjun presented himself in the form of a Jangam mendicant before the home of Hema Reddy, begging with the words, Bhavati Bhiksham Dehi, lady, give me alms. Nagamma scolded the mendicant, saying, can't you work for your living? To patronize a strong, sturdy fellow like you is a crime. Mallamma intervened, sister, this is Jangama. This Jangama is an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Let us give him a bit of our food, for it is wrong to deny the needy when we have the means to help them. Turning to the Jangama, Malamma requested him not to take umbrage at the words of her sister-in-law and added that she would go in and fetch him some food. Jangam thanked Malamma and blessed her with kind words, which stuck Nagamma like arrows. She thought she was slighted by Malamma and reported the matter to their mother-in-law. Pedamma then came on the scene and told Malamma, who do you think you are? Who gave you the right to patronize beggars? Have you brought any treasure from your father's home that you think you can do whatever you like with our possessions? Now listen, you have got some course to attend to. Fetch water from the lake, clean the backyard, grind the corn, take breakfast to the wage laborers in the fields. Although she was sorry for the folly of her mother-in-law and her sister-in-law, Malama gladly accepted the command of her mother-in-law, placing her faith in Lord Malleswara. Besides performing these heavy duties, Malama would daily serve her 𝐂𝐿𝐴 husbands in traditional style. If ever her husband praises her to mother-in-law, the old woman would send away her son, unwilling to hear such nice words. The husband of Nagamma, the eldest son of Hema Reddy, is a profligate. He would spend all his time with his mistress and does not care for his wife at all. He contracted several debts and is about to pledge his portion of the house to raise more money. Nagamma could not help obey him. As the two elder women were not allowing Mallamma to eat her food properly, she was running down physically. Her fingers began hurting because of the manual labor. She then lamented, Lord Malleswara, I am unable to complete the grinding of this large quantity of corn because my fingers have already developed blisters. Kindly come to my rescue. As she fell in a swoon, the Lord ground the whole grain in a trice. Mallamma could visualize the presence of the Lord and begged him to stop grinding, for she did not like the idea of seeing his fingers hurt in the process. When she opened her eyes, she saw the whole corn ground into flour. She realized it was the work of God and paid him her grateful thanks mentally. Next day also, the Jangam came to Hema Reddy's home for alms. Mallamma was getting ready to give him a little corn flour, but the Jangamma requested her to give him a full meal. She replied that she was not free to go to the kitchen to fetch him a full meal. The Jangamma protested that he, being all alone and unlearned in the art of cooking, he had no way of making a cake of the flour. Mallamma had no choice but to apologize to him for her helplessness. The Jangam told her that her troubles would soon be over. The flour disappeared along with the Jangam. Nagamma now had a chance of accusing Mallamma with apt evidence that the latter gave away 30 measures of corn to the Jangam. When scolded by her mother-in-law, Mallamma protested that she did not know how the whole floor vanished, but the mother-in-law was not convinced and asked Mallamma to go to the jungle and look after the cattle. She was just allowed a little gruel by way of nourishment. When she said she was weak with hunger, she was given 2 old saris and further ordered by the mother-in-law to stay on in the forest because she did not deserve to stay in the home. Then her husband came there and asked his mother to allow his wife to stay with them. Vedamma chided him that he was under the spell of his willy wife. After some more pleading from the man and some chiding from the old woman, Mallamma was at last forced to go to the forest. Mallamma bowed to the feet of her husband, Before leaving for the forest, she had the mortification of hearing her mother-in-law say that her husband would be found another wife. Moreover, she was not even provided with footwear for the journey. As she was proceeding towards the forest, a monk, Chidanand Yogi, who was building a hermitage near Sri Salem, happened to see her. He pitied her. She said that she was merely being tested by God. The monk escorted her to Alamanda. Near the place, near that place is a tribal hamlet. They lived There lived the Chenchu tribal couple, Nagamma and Amavamma. On one day, the husband told his wife that thanks to his hunting with a prayer to Lord Malleshwara, he could easily kill a lion. Amavamma asked him not to speak too much but get a fit gift for goddess Brahmaramba and Lord Malleshwara, whose special festival was being celebrated the following day. Nagamma assured her that goddess Brahmaramba, belonging as she does to their own tribe, would certainly come to their aid in seeking the victuals. When asked to accompany him to the forest to see his hunting prowess, Amabamba said that she had to keep Malamma company, who was attending on the cattle. In the cattle shed, Malamma was praying to the image of Lord Shiva with the bilva leaves. By then, the servant who brought her the gruel went away. Again, Lord Malleshwara came to ask alms of Malamma in the guise of a janga. Malamma recognized the Lord in him, but said that all that she could offer him was a little gruel. Seeing her plaintive complexion, the Lord took pity on her. He asked her why she was staying all alone in the jungle. She related her whole sad story since birth till that moment. The Jangam then said, "Don't worry, child. Your favorite deity is all merciful. On the on the nearby hill is his temple. Go and fetch the sacred waters from the adjacent Patalganga and anoint the idols of Malleshwara and Brahmaramba with them. Thereby your hard luck will be gone." As the Jangam said that he would gladly drink the gruel, Malamma poured it into his joint palms. He said that his hunger was gone, and the gruel, on account of her touch, tasted like nectar. She thanked him ecstatically, but she was not yet satisfied. She begged Lord Malleshwara to grant her the bliss of seeing his real figure with her eyes, and threatened that if he would not agree to do so, she would break her head against his idol and die. Then Lord Malleshwara appeared before her in his true form and said, "Dear devotee, I am touched by your sincere resolve. You have really brought renown to the families of both your parents and in-laws. Now seek whatever boon you want from me." Alamma said, "Lord, all that I want is the ability to see you. My sole wish is to serve you and your consort. Anyway, please always protect my in-laws, my husband, and my other relatives." The Lord said, "So be it. I shall receive your alms always in a form of a jangam." And once Lord Malleswara went to the home of Hemareddy as a jangam, Nagamma and Pedamma, in place of alms, gave him a swear thrashing with a big stick. They even told Mallamma's husband that his wife was having illicit relations with a mendicant in the jungle. Brahma Reddy was actually given a sickle by his mother, who asked him to keep the family prestige alive by cutting off the head of his unfaithful wife. Brahmara Reddy went to the jungle and, standing behind a tree, overheard the conversation between his wife and the Jangam. As he realized that his wife was a true devotee of Lord Malleshwara and that the Jangam was none other than that very Lord, his sickle turned into a golden piece. He fell at the feet of his wife and begged her to see that he could have the darshan of Lord Malleshwara. At Malamma's earnest behest, the Lord appeared before the couple and promised them that they would eventually be united with him in spirit. Brahmara Reddy then took his wife to Siddhapuram as usual. Nagamma and Pedamma scolded them both. The mother-in-law hit Malamma with a shoe and asked her not to enter the house. Malamma did not retort in any manner. She returned to the jungle with the name of Lord Malleswara on her lips. As her husband tried to follow her, he was stopped by his mother. Meanwhile, news reached them that two of their bulls died. Also, their haystacks were burned. Their debts grew immensely. There was no stock of grain in the home. The crops were pest-ridden. Hemareddy was extremely worried. He asked to Brahma Reddy to bring the golden ornaments in the home, but when the young man opened the iron safe, no jewelry was to be found in it. Pedamma and Nagamma began crying, saying that their jewels were stolen by thieves. When Hema Reddy learnt the news, his heart was broken. But who can change the nature of those two women? All that Hema Reddy could say was that he would go and fetch Malamma home from the jungle. At the time Hema Reddy reached her residence, Malamma was awaiting the arrival of the Jangam. When he saw her father-in-law, she greeted him with reverence and inquired about the state of his health and his farming. Hema Reddy told her about all that happened to his finances. Malamma was grieved to learn the bad news, but she had no complaints against the two women who were instrumental in banishing her. She merely said that because of the exile, she could devote her entire time to the devotion of Lord Malleshwara and to the service of the sacred cows. Then she asked her father-in-law to get in, pray to the image of Shiva, and touch the dung of the holy cows. As he did so, the dung turned into gold. Hema Reddy thanked Malamma for saving the family from penury. She said that she was only an instrument in the hands of Lord Malleswara, whose grace was responsible for the miracle. She suggested that he spent the gold on paying the debts and on farming. The balance, she added, could be expended on the renovation of the dilapidated, dilapidated temple of Lord Malleshwara. Malamma's advice was accepted by Hema Reddy. He invited her back in their home. Malamma said that her duty by the Lord was her prime consideration. When she wanted the Lord to give his darshan to her father-in-law, he replied that the mind of Hema Reddy was not yet fully purified for such a boon, but he promised once the remainder of the wealth he received was spent on restoring his temple, he would gladly appear before him. When she conveyed the promise of the Lord to her father-in-law, he was gratified, and for his part promised to spend the money he could spare on the temple renovation. In the meantime, were heard cries, Malamma, save us, Nagamma and Pedamma fell prostrate on the feet of Malamma and begged her to release them from their misfortune. Malamma requested them not to go to her, for she was younger than they. She actually thanked them because by her exile, she was blessed with the darshan of Lord Malleshwara. At that point, Brahmareddy came there and scolded his mother and his sister-in-law. Malamma told her husband that it was not right on his part to insult his mother or his sister-in-law, who was the equal of his mother. Although they all requested her to return home, she said that her place was still in the jungle, in the presence of Lord Malleshwara. After a while, they arrived the poet Ranganatha, who became blind by praising Vishnu and insulting Shiva. When he sought the pardon of Malleshwara, the Lord granted him sight only in one eye. For the restoration of the sight on the other eye, he was asked by the Lord to seek the help of Mallamma. By making him drink the water consecrated to the Lord, she could make his other eye also normal. When the restoration of the temple was completed, Mallamma accepted the invitation of her in-laws to return to Sri Salem. Malamma and her husband took a dip in the Patal Ganga and prescribed over the anointing function after the completion of the renovation of the temple. After the function, the Lord told Malamma, stay on for a little while in this place and spread the message of Lord Shiva and the glory of the Sri Salem Pilgrim Center on all sides. You are indeed the incarnation of the bountiful goddess Annapurna. By associating with you, your husband will gain everlasting reputation as a great devotee of mine. Later, Malamma worshipped goddess Brahmaramba and received the blessings of that incarnation of cosmic energy. When the consecration was completed duly, she distributed the food to the multitudes. Everyone praised Malamma for her pity, virtue, nobility, and generosity. Bhakta Siddha
One
Ram
second,
Gopal.
Manuji, one second. Is there anybody else who would like to read since we are almost reaching the end? If not, I'll ask Manuji to finish. Raise your hand if you'd like to read. There's just couple, I think 3-4 more pages. Okay. Manuji, we are just finishing. There's hardly 3-4 pages left. Can we give it to the other devotees? Thank you so much.
Sam
Namaste.
Namaste.
Samsadash. Siddeshi, you take it from here. And just let me quickly check how many chapters so I can divide it equally. So there's just this chapter. So you can read probably till 275 and Rituji can finish it with the last page.
Rituji
Thank
would
you
like
so
to take
much.
it. Rituji would like to take it from here. The whole chapter, please. I can step back if you would like to.
I think Siddeshi, she's saying you can do it. right?
I'll do the
Sudeshi, I think-
last. I'll do the last.
Okay. Sudeshi, go ahead.
Am I audible now?
Wow.
Okay. Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya. Bhakt Siddha Rama Gopal. In the western part of India, there is a village named Sonalapu, in which lived a shepherd, Budaya. He was great devotee of Shiva. His wife was Shubhangi. By the grace of Lord Shiva, they had a son, whom they christened Siddha Rama Gopal. When he was 8 years old, Gopal began his traditional duties of tending the ship. Once he happened to see a large group of Jangam mendicants proceeding to Sri Shaila. He was curious to learn where they were going to. On inquiry, one of the devotees told Gopal that the destination was the great resort of Lord Malleshwara, Sri Shaila. When pressed with further queries from the boy, the devotee described to him the shape of Lord's image, as well as his constant companionship with Goddess Parvati, as earlier narrated in this book. Gopal's curiosity then changed into the actual wish to see Lord Malleshwara. When he requested the pilgrims to take him along with them, they tried to dissuade him by saying that such a boy as he could not walk all that long distance. But Gopala said that he could walk any distance, and further added that he was prepared to leave his home and parents to get a glimpse of the Lord. The devotee who answered his questions was now in wondering, for nobody who wants to see Sri Shailam, should he deny that opportunity? On the other hand, should not take the boy along with them without informing his parents. Unable to make his mind, the Jangama devotee began to proceed on his way. The boy kept following him. Then the Jangama Maheshwara felt that there was no point in trying to stop the boy. Along the way, he took care of the boy's needs like a fond parent. At last, all the pilgrims reached Sri Shaila, the night before the great festival of Mahashivratri. The Changam led the boy to the idol of Lord Mallikarjun, which is Malleshwara, the next morning and asked him to fall prostrate at the Lord's feet in self-surrendering devotion. Looking at the idol, Gopal turned to the Jangam and said, "Sir, do you think that I am a fool? How can this stone image be Lord Mallikarjun, Shiva? Why don't I see all those appurtenances of the Lord which you graphically described to me? Where is his consort, Parvati? Where is the river Ganga in his hair?" Then the Jangam replied, "Dear boy, I merely described to you the living form of Lordship. When he has no attributes, he appears in the linga, the symbol of God's omnipresence. You cannot see the real Shiva with the eyes of body, but you can see him with your eyes of knowledge. So set aside your doubts and pray to this great image." But Gopal paid no heed to Jangam's advice. He declared he would not return home till he saw the real form of Lordship. Convinced that it was difficult to persuade the boy, the Jangam went his way. Gopal was worried. Now that Jangam left him, he wondered who would attend to his physical needs of food and raiment. Then he began to wail, "Oh Lord Mallikarjun, I'm helpless in this big jungle. The Jangam who led me here has disappeared. Take pity on me, a wretched boy who left his home and parents in the hope of saving you. If you do not show mercy towards me, who else can save me?" Taking pity on the boy, Malleshwara appeared in the form of a devotee, visitor, Maheshwara, and promised to render him any help he needed. Gopal told him all about himself and his earnest wish to see Lord Shiva in person. The stranger said, "The description of Lord Shiva made the Jangam is right. Made by the Jangam is right. Come with me. I will show you Lord Mallikarjuna, who answers to that description." The stranger led the boy to the image of Lord Mallikarjuna. Gopal complained that the stranger was merely showing the same old head, which was earlier shown him by the jungle. Impressed by the boy's sincere determination, the stranger said, "Close your eyes for a while. When you open your eyes, you will be also to see the Mallikarjuna you want to see." So saying, the stranger disappeared. When Gopal opened his eyes, he saw Lord Mallikarjuna along with his consort, Brahmaramba. Gopal cried in ecstasy, "Lord, where hast thou hidden thyself all along? I thank thee with all my heart and mind and soul for giving me the supreme delight of seeing thee with my own eyes. If the stranger had not brought me here, I would have been lost forever." I think from here, forever, from here, Ritaji, we can take it from here. When Gopala look, it's the last page, right? From here, forever.
Okay, there's this page and another one, but Rituji can take over from here.
When me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
When Gopala looked behind to see the stranger, there was no sign of him. Then Lord Mallikarjun took the boy into his arms, placed him on his lap, and said, "I appreciate your purposeful devotion. I'm that stranger. I'm now going to transform your humble garb into golden armor. I'm presenting you with miraculous sandals and magic touchstone. You may now seek any boon you want from me." Gopala asked the Lord to go to his native village along with his consort so that the natives could pray to him daily. The Lord said, "I and my spouse will gladly come there, but remember, you alone can see us in real form. The others can see only our idols." Immensely pleased, Gopala then prayed to the Lord, Karunya Mrita Varshinam Ghana Vipat Grisham Chida Karmatham Vidya Sasya Phala Udaya Sumna Sasme Sevam Icha Kritim Nrityat Bhakti Mayuram Adri Nilayam Chanchat Jata Mandalam Sambhu Vanchat Nilakant Dhara Sadatvam Min Mana Chataka. O Lord Shiva, always the Chataka bird of my mind seeks thee. O thou art the shower of nectar of grace, the determined destroyer of the heat of the deepest distress, the fertilizer of the farm of education, the quintessence of all yielding bounty ever worshipped by scholars, the possessor of the devotion displayed by dancing devotee peacocks, the dweller on Silver Mountain and the bearer of shining hair. After gracefully listening to Gopala's prayer, the divine couple disappeared. The boy formally offered his prayers to Ganpati and the Veerbhadra couple before putting on his magic slippers, which took him to his wished-for destination of his hometown in Thrice. As his parents embraced him welcomely, there was heard the sound of anklets. The sound, according to the reports brought by the villagers to Gopala, denoted the appearance of a huge Shiva shrine on the outskirts of the village, complete with image of Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati, and the formation of sacred lake before that temple. Enraptured, Gopala ran up to the temple, followed by his relatives and other natives. Siddha Ram Gopala found his wishes fulfilled. The divine couple appeared to him personally. The others of the whole village gathered there, sang and danced of the newly self-installed idols of Mallikarjun and Maramba. The temple bells were ringing solemnly. Gopala took a dip in the sacred lake, anointed idols with holy waters, worshipped them with full mind and consecration. All those who saw the consecration by the installation of the idols felt that their lives were wholly sanctified. As long as he lived in his mortal coil, Siddharam Gopala fulfilled all his duties by Lord Shiva devotees, firmly establishing the glorious on earth. All those who saw and heard him were inspired by the spirit of Shiva. Thereby was perpetuated the worship of Lord Shiva. Om Tat Sat.
Thank you so much, Rituji.
Thank you.
I think
We
we
have
finally,
finished.
yeah, we finished. And I really wish that Bhagwan Shiva and Ma Parvati guide each and every one of us in our path to become as wise as we can. So thank you so much, everyone, for being the
Thank you.
part of this Shiv Purana recitation for so many days. We started Sunday and we finally finished there. Thank you so much. Sam Sadashiv. Namah
Thank you.
Shivaya.
Thank you.
Thank
Om
you.
Namo Shivaya.